Hey everybody, this is a wonderful 4th of July, and a friend of mine who is on Facebook commented on some of my videos saying that my videos are too sedate. I'm too rational, and I need to be a little more radical, he said, and a little more emotional in my videos. See, I've been trying to be very level and even-tempered and rational and everything. So today I'm going to get a little more radical with my politics. And with this, I want to say that everything I've said previous to this, I pretty much stand with. So this is like the radical version of it. So the first thing I wanted to say is I'm a little bit afraid to say some of the things I'm going to say. You know, there is people in the world, or there are people in the world who are going to hold this against me. And, you know, who knows, maybe when I'm job hunting, an employer might look at this and say, we can't hire this guy. We don't like the way he thinks. See, this is the new censorship in America. You know, the corporations go on to things like Facebook and YouTube and the internet, and they can access all your files or, you know, look at what you had to put out, and then they can make a decision whether or not you have the kind of stuff that the corporations agree with. And this is the way America is going nowadays, unfortunately. I'm gonna, you know, here it is, the 4th of July today, and I believe that America, as we know it, is ending, unfortunately. There's a entity that exists that's larger than the United States of America, and that is the international corporations. You know, they talk about, I heard the other day on television some politicians talking about American businesses. You know, we have to help American. Well, I have a little skepticism about even that comment about American businesses even existing. There are no American businesses except maybe very, very local ones. A good portion of the capital in the world are international corporations who make decisions on a regional basis about where they're going to spend their capital. And I live up here in a corner of Ohio. I feel that international corporations have been punishing the Midwest because they're trying to get back for the days when the Midwest came out with all the workers' rights and unions. And they have been sucking capital out of the Midwest and sending it to, first of all, the South. And now even the South is losing jobs to the third world, like China and India and other third world Pacific Rim countries and so forth. And that's because the United States of America no longer represents the people of the United States of America. You know, the first 3 words of the Constitution are "we the people." And it no longer exists that way. It's we the corporations. You know, if you want proof of that, just look at the Supreme Court ruling on the Citizens United, they call it, whereas the Supreme Court, through some convoluted logic, decided that corporations had the rights of people. People have a right to free speech, they said, and corporations, therefore, are people. And money, they say, is free speech. Now, that's topsy-turvy from logic. Money is not free speech, and corporations are not people. That's the truth. But what we're seeing right now, unfortunately, in the United States, is a certain type of adoration of the wealthy. There are a large number of people who somehow have decided in their mind that they should adore and worship wealthy people, the rich people. And they also have adoration of the military, which I can deal with later. But I have not the same respect for the wealthy people of the world. I believe that a wealthy person, a rich person, has primarily 4 attributes, 4 character traits, and that is they are greedy, they are selfish, they are cheap, and they are stingy. And that is the main aspects. Those are the main character traits of almost all rich people. Now, I'm sure there are some who are not that way, that inherited their wealth or lucked into their wealth. But that is the primary character traits of all you wealthy people. And I'm not upsetting anybody here who's watching this who's actually wealthy, because I don't think any wealthy people will watch this. And but what they are actually, and that's the truth, they're greedy, selfish, cheap, and stingy. And they're all, the people in the United States somehow have become enamored with these wealthy people. And I heard some people say when I was younger that rich people are automatically smart people. They say, oh, he's got to be smart, he's rich. There's a certain, like I say, adoration of the wealthy, and they've given everything away to the wealthy in the last many years. And the wealthy, of course, they've taken it because they're greedy, But I don't understand the people who do give all this away to the wealthy. They're what I call whipped dogs. That is, if you ever knew anybody who had to beat their dog excessively, they get these dogs and they beat them every time they do anything wrong, and then whenever they want their dog, they yell, come here, Fido, come here. And Fido would come, cringing with his tail between his legs, but he would come. When his beating master, he knew he was going to get beat, but he'd come because he's all he deserved, That's all he deserved, is to be beaten by his master. And his master would beat him again, And I've seen people that are just like that. The people that, one person in particular that comes to mind is a lady that her daughter went to school with my daughter. And she worked at an assembly plant. She made like $7.90 an hour at an assembly plant. And we were talking to her. She's whining to us about taxes. Oh, the federal taxes are too high. They're too high. We got to cut them. Those damn Democrats are always raising taxes. Now I'm thinking to myself, have you ever heard of the Earned Income Tax Credit? I mean, she has 2 daughters under 18 years old, and she works for almost minimum wage, and she's complaining about federal taxes. How much in federal taxes is she actually paying? That's what I have to ask. I see the same thing. A guy working at a gas station, little scruffy guy in crummy clothes, and he's complaining, oh, they got to cut the regulations. All those gasoline prices are too high because they got too many regulations. What is he's making minimum wage at a gas station, part-time, and he's complaining about government regulations. What government regulations are bothering him? Maybe there's not enough drugs on the market for him. There are too many laws against drugs, I guess. But I hear these people all the time. They're whipped dogs. There was a guy, I listened to Rush Limbaugh's show. There's a guy on there saying, gosh, Rush, I love you, Rush. I think everything you say is just great, Rush. But I have these kids, and every day to go to school, the best meal they get is that breakfast that they give them from the government. The school breakfast program. It's the best meal they have every day, because I've been having some hard times lately. I can hardly feed my children. I said, but I loves you, Rush. I loves everything you say. And Rush says, well, you ought to stop sucking off the government's teat. Oh, no, Rush, I'll stop. So here's a guy, for the sake of the ideology of the right-wing rich people, that they shouldn't have to pay so many taxes and so forth, he's willing to starve his own children. His own children come second to this adoration of the wealthy. It's just stupid. That's what I think. Anybody who makes less than $50,000 and votes for this trickle-down economics is just stupid. That's all there is to it. They used to have something like this. This is not a new thing. Adoration of the wealthy goes back to the Middle Ages. It used to be called divine rights of kings. Whereas the peasants would do all the work. They'd work from sun up to sundown, and the hierarchy, the royal family, could do whatever they want and take all the money. They'd run through the fields and chasing a fox and knock down all the wheat, and the peasants just had to take it. Their daughters were fair game if the young noblemen wanted to break their maidenhead. That was a sport back in the Middle Ages, and they had to take it because, gosh, it's all I deserve. I'm a whipped dog. He beat the master, beat me. That's the way people are in the United States today. They've been voting, the Tea Party people have been voting for no taxes and no Social Security, no Medicare. Let's get rid of all this unions and all that kind of stuff and give it all to the rich, because the rich are better than you. You are just a dumb whipped dog. The rich get everything and you get nothing because you don't deserve it, after all. That's what's happening in America today. Well, I have some very pointed suggestions that I would like to enact, and so this is radical. First one I want to tell you is that they ought to put a limit on wealth. In the United States of America, nobody should be allowed to make more than $1 million per year. Now that means that any penny they make over $1 million is taxed 100%. And up to $1 million, you still tax that heavily. So there are people out there, I don't know any of them personally, but they make like $5 million in a year. Well, that should be $5 million that they make, $4 million goes to the government. Now here's my second proposal. It's radical. No person should be allowed to have more than $10 million in assets. That means in the United States. That means if you have $10 million and $1, that $1 goes either to the government, or you just say, well, wait a minute now, some people would say, this guy owns a company that's worth $50 million, and if he has to give it away to the government, then all those workers will get laid off. Well, here's what you do. First $10 million in assets you own. The next $40 million has to be shared equally among the workers of the company until they come up to $10 million. You know, I don't think this is a big problem. There's not a lot of people who have $10 million in assets. Now, you're saying, what? That's communism. I can hear you yelling on the other side of the screen. That's communism. It's not communism. It's socialism, and it's not communism. See, this is how, if you think that's communism, that's because the American educational system has been dismantled, and you don't know what you're talking about. Communism is the dictatorship of the proletariat, whereas all means of production are owned communally. That means no private property. No, I'm saying $10 million, yeah. If you can make $10 million, more power to you. But anything over $10 million has to be taxed. Here's my third radical proposal. That is that anybody who sits on a company that makes decisions about capital and is an American citizen who ships money overseas shall be jailed. Nobody's allowed to make, we're allowed to protect our own money in our own country. So nobody's allowed to take money, capital, out of the United States and invest it overseas. If you do, you go to jail for 10 years. Now that'll stop all that. That'll stop people from spending money overseas. They have to apply through the government, with a vote of the people, before you're allowed to start spending money overseas. That's the way it should be. Now I know these proposals are so radical, and it would make so much sense, and it would make the United States thrive, but we've never tried anything like this. We've never actually gone in that direction. We've gone the other way. We've given away the House to the Republicans, trickle-down economics, cut taxes, cut regulations. Well, look at where we are, huh? It's been really a stupid idea. And I'm fairly certain this is never going to happen, what I'm talking about. This is just a radical idea, but it's never going to happen because somewhere around 1968, they took over the government. Some Republican old money guy was sitting around in Manhattan waiting for a taxi cab, and there were 3 other people waiting for a taxi cab. It was raining, and the guy who was the janitor at the school got the taxi cab ahead of the rich guy. And the rich guy said, wait a minute. Why would a janitor get a taxi cab before me? How could he even afford it? He said, I'm going to have to stop this from happening, he said. And the rich people, they had all the money, and I'm not saying they're all stupid. They were able to buy the media. They were able to start buying the elections. Citizen United, Fox News, Rush Limbaugh, all the media now is owned by really wealthy people who are there to oppress the average man. And it's going international now. So we have no control of the government any longer. There's a bunch of dummies out there, whipped dogs, who just follow. And we love the rich people. They deserve everything. We don't deserve anything. Whipped dogs. That's what they are.